our next race here at Laguna Seca, the FIA IMSA GT GTX AAGT. These are cars built between 1973 and 1981. This is the Bonham's Cup race.
Kind of an alphabet soup.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. But basically, think of this as the classic GT racers from the 70s. This is a pretty classic era into the 80s as well. In fact, we're going to start off by giving you the grid. We've got a couple of 935s up front, one being driven by Bruce Canepa, a 1979 Porsche 935, and then Charles Neerberg in a 1980 Porsche 935 K3.
Next up, Ken Epsman in car 20, 1976 Dekon Monza. Alongside him will be Mike Thurlow, car 53, 1968 Chevrolet Green.
And if you were thinking you hadn't seen enough Porsche 935s lately, well, all you had to do is be right here. Zach Brown, we know that name well, a 1981 Porsche 935. And right behind him is William Chip Connor in a 1980 Porsche 935J.
And if you like wide Corvettes, you're in for a treat, as next up is 88A Jim Pla in a 1979 Greenwood Corvette, and behind him a 1976 Greenwood Corvette driven by Jordan Taylor, car 48.
Martin Lauber has a 1979 Porsche 935. Richard Goldsmith is in a 1976 Dekon Monza. It was designed as a race car from the word go. Look a little further back in the pack, we've got a 1979 Datsun 280ZX. That's the number 38 car. That is going through the pack. A couple of Z cars, because the number 47 car right behind it is a 1976 Datsun 240Zs. Another couple of cars with had great racing histories in themselves.
Yeah, they're battling for 18th and 19th, but they're having a battle as if they were going for first and second. Good battles throughout the field, so don't just keep your eye on the lead out here. Look at the rest of the cars fighting amongst themselves.
And there are battles all over the track. And you got to remember, we have 45 cars that started this race. One of them pulled off at the very beginning, but 45 cars in this race that all want to, even if they can't win the race, they may not be competing up front for the number one position, but their goal is to win wherever they can on the track. And we got a battle right now with the the twisty section of this track.
Looks like only 2 of the Dekon Monzas are out running in this current event. Epson did not come out again. In the meantime, Thurlow continues to lead over Kenepa, but Kenepa is keeping him in sight, probably within a half a second, followed by Nürburg and Ricky Taylor in the Greenwood Corvette, running a solid 4th. Ranson Webster in 42 running in 5th. Good showing for him.
And we've got a great battle in the back of the pack. There you see the number 44 car. That's one being driven by Bill Warner. And he just got eaten up by somebody ahead of him. Then you got the number 15 car. That's that Greenwood Corvette that's trying to work his way through the field as well, because he started further back. That's Brad Briscoe. He started back in 38th, and he's been trying to work forward. And then we've got a BMW CSL, always referred to as the Batmobile back.
Looks like cars are leaving the grid to come out on track to begin this next race.
All right, so let's run down the grid. Car number 68 being driven by Patrick Long. That's that 1968 Porsche 911 TR. Nelson Cali right beside him, a 1967 Porsche 911.
Alan Turpin's driving a 1967 Porsche 911 T/R and a 65 Alfa Romeo GTA Corsa. Patrick Byrne, car 162 next.
Kevin C. in a 1966 Porsche 911. Gunnar Jeanette in an Alfa Romeo GTZ from 64.
Tom Tuttle, 64 Lotus Elan 26R. 67 Datsun Roadster 311 2-liter. That is driven by John Wilkins.
Randall Smalley is in a Porsche 911S. Alex McDowell is in a 1967 Nissan Bluebird.
1966 Porsche 911 driven by Jim Frula. Victor Avila alongside, and a 64
10th, and has moved his way up. And I love this one, a 1967 Datsun Roadster 311. They had the Datsun 1600 and the Datsun 2000. These were great little cars. People always think about the Datsun 240Z as a sports car, but before there was a Datsun 240Z, it was the Datsun 1600 and the Datsun 2000 that ruled the roads.
Yeah, they were the first sports cars imported into the U.S. by Datsun. As you say, predecessor to the Z cars, which came later and were very, very popular.
And of course, there's the Datsun 510. Now that is a Nissan Bluebird that looks a lot like the Datsun 510. Nissan Bluebird was a car that was only sold in Japan. It was a Japanese domestic. You'll notice that is a right-hand drive car, so it was imported as a right-hand drive car. It competes over here, but it was essentially the Japanese domestic version of the Datsun 510.
Did you ever drive a right-hand car, Rick?
I've driven them in Europe, and you have, I know when I've been over there and I've driven sticks, it makes me really have to think with a manual transmission what to do. It's a little bit easier if you drive a right-hand drive with an automatic transmission, because I don't have to think about shifting with my right hand.
It doesn't take too long to get used to. It's the same shift pattern. It's just you're sitting on the other side of it.
For Gunnar Jeanette, well, he's got that car right behind him, that Lotus right behind him, but his next thing that he wants to battle is that 1967 Nissan Bluebird, and this is Kevin C. He's under attack from a 1967 Datsun Roadster being driven by John Wilkins.
Let's see, he's got the acceleration coming out of turn 11. The horsepower up the front straightaway.
And it just doesn't have enough going up that front straightaway to do anything as they go into the Andretti hairpin.
New race leader, according to our timing monitor. We didn't see it, but Patrick Long is back out front in the 68 car.
So he was able to make a move on Nelson Cali, and now he has the lead, and it's about a second and a third lead. So he's still doing well. And Alan Turpins in a 1967 Porsche 911 is in third place. Meanwhile, this is the battle for 7th, 8th, 9th. There you see the number 77. That's the 7th place car, that 1969 Porsche, being followed by that Nissan Bluebird, essentially a Datsun 510, and Gunnar Jeanette right behind him, followed by Tom Tuttle in the Lotus Elan. So they are running nose to tail as they go up the hill, trying to get an advantage, trying to figure out who can shake this thing out. The Datsun trying to take a look to the inside the number 78 Porsche, but can't quite pull it off. And I think that the number 78 Porsche has had a little bit of a problem and is kind of fallen back, because for a while he was challenging up front.
Well, we've got to be in the closing stages of this one. One, maybe two more laps to go. We'll have to catch the signal from the starter when they get down to start finish. And that Datsun Roadster right alongside Kevin C makes the pass and takes the position, moves himself up into 5th spot. That's Wilkins in that Datsun Roadster 1967 model car 79.
Yeah, very impressive. He's done a great job of moving his way up, because he started back in 9th place and has now moved himself into the top 5. So we're going to come across the finish line. We only have about a minute and a half or so left in this race, so I'm going to guess they're going to be showing him 1 lap to go, and that's exactly what we can see. 1 lap to go.